Varesa is the brand new Electro DPS coming to Genshin Impact for version 5.5. She is the very first plunge attack DPS that we have had since Gaming and Xiao all the way back before him. Her animations are looking extremely high quality, her model is a brand new design we've never had in Genshin before, and overall she is looking like a character that's had a lot of love and care put into her and her kit design, and she's looking very strong to boot. So in this video, we're going to go over how to pre-farm for her build guide, what will likely be her best teams, and talk about what we'll still need to do once she actually releases to find out exactly how strong she will be. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. Before we get into anything, Varesa is a DPS. She is a new breed of DPS, aka the post-Moika DPS arc, which I predict will mark a new line in the sand for power. If you're not at least a certain threshold, any new DPS releasing after Moika will feel bad. So I expect Varesa to be competitive, if not surpassing a character like Novelette, and being above all the other DPSs in the game, including Clorinde, Kinich, Mulani, Chaska, etc. Obviously, I don't expect anyone to compete with Moika anytime soon. That being said, because I expect all new DPSs to be at this certain level, even though Varesa will be very strong on release, I do not recommend her as sort of a meta recommendation, not only because she requires quite a few pieces for her two different teams to actually produce on that level, but also because I firmly believe that everyone should pick the DPS that they enjoy playing, whether that be gameplay, lore, power, whatever, and base your pulling decisions around that DPS rather than based on power in general. So don't wish for Varesa for power, but definitely make sure you get her if you enjoy slamming your cows down on your enemies to deal damage. It looks awesome. All right, this is how I plan on farming for Varesa. I plan on level 90ing her, getting her talents to 9, 10, 9. Huge investment into her talent levels. Her damage is not based on reaction, but based on raw talent damage. So really focusing on her talents will be very important. And using all three of her talents is really annoying. I like it when characters only use 2. Save me lots of books in Mora, but c'est la vie. This is her pre-farming guide. You'll want more of these claws. You want these flowery looking talent books, the new bosses, ascension materials, or not ascension. Yeah, talent level materials, whatever. And the local specialty and boss are going to be the new ones coming out with the next area, so you can't pre-farm those. If you plan on getting her weapon, you'll want to pre-farm these masks, as well as pre-farm, again, more claws. I can't believe how many claws we've had to use. I've just been killing Saurians. I feel like since we started Natlan, I feel like I've been doing Saurian runs every other day. And then the other materials we don't have access to until the new map. For her build guide, you can use either the Obsidian Codex artifact set or the new one coming in the new area. It's the plunge set. I don't remember what it's called. Both of them have advantages. Let's say you haven't farmed any Obsidian Codex yet. Both of them have advantages. Codex gives you a ton of crit rate, making crit much easier to build on your Varesa. However, the new set gives you so much damage bonus percent that you can go with an attack goblet instead of an electro goblet, potentially making the new set easier to farm. So if you're starting from 0, you can kind of go for either. I would still give the edge to Obsidian Codex for ease of farming because getting free crit is really, really nice. And also getting the Scroll of the Hero Cinder City artifact set is really nice. So for most people, I would recommend farming Obsidian. I've seen it calced at exactly matching the new set in terms of overall power. And I've also seen it being just a couple percent above Codex. So if you really, really want to min-max, I recommend looking into a few more sources and figuring it out for yourself. I personally will be farming the new set because in the new set domain is the Skirk artifact set, or what we can all assume must be the Skirk artifact set. And I will certainly be getting Skirk, so I will be farming the new set regardless, and obviously using Obsidian until I get an adequate new set for Varesa. For most players, Obsidian is going to be a lot more efficient. The stats, like I said, attack, electro damage bonus, unless you're on the new artifact set, and then you can use attack, crit, and then crit rate or crit damage. Headpiece, you're looking for attack, crit rate, crit damage substats. Crit rate and crit damage being the best, but attack still a very good substat. And just a little bit of energy recharge, maybe 115 to 125, depending on what Electro you're using with her. If you're using Anson with Favonius Lance, then just like 115 energy is fine. Being a Catalyst user, you have access to one of the best free-to-play-ish friendly weapons in the game, being the Widsith. Obviously, she's not utilizing the Elemental Mastery very well, but the elemental damage bonus is massive and the attack is quite good as well. So either notes 1 or 2 for Widsith. As good as Widsith is, her signature weapon, this one is even better. It's about 20% better on average than Widsith, which is a pretty big jump. If you want to know about other options for your Varesa's weapon, the Genshin Scientist made this great comparison of all her weapon options. Definitely go check out his channel. I always have it linked down below. And if you're considering vertical investment for your Varesa, you will want to be considering her weapon as being better than her constellations. Her C2 is a similar increase to her weapon, but it requires C2 versus just 1 copy of the weapon. That being said, you can get more Yansan constellations going for constellations of Varesa, but if you don't have Shenyun, maybe getting, and you're going to be wishing for Yansan constellations, Shenyun C2 is a viable and very impactful vertical investment option for Varesa mains. I would still say her weapon is going to be better than Shenyun C2 just because it requires less pulls. But if it means getting more Yansan constellations, that could be worth it. So I would leave it totally up to you as to whether or not you want to dump all of your gems onto the Shenyun banner. The other advantage for, I think it also kind of depends on if you have C6 Chevreuse or not. If you don't have C6 Chevreuse, then going all in on Shenyun is probably your best bet. Because yeah, Shenyun C2 just greatly increases the damage bonus that she gives, and it just makes her way better at buffing Varesa. So yeah, you can choose between Shenyun constellations and more Yansan copies or Varesa's weapon. Both will be worth it. And if you're for some reason considering Farina constellations, that is good too, but I would say Shenyun C2 is going to be a little bit more impactful along with getting Yansan constellation. Like I said before, as she is a raw scaler, leveling her to 90, crowning her is going to be in your best interest. I won't be like explaining exactly how her kit works in this video. I think I'll save that for the team's video, but something that's at least interesting to note is she has multiple different levels or charges for her burst. So you can use like a half burst, which overall does more damage than her full burst, which is kind of interesting, but it still does require energy. And it still does use her burst talent, so you still need to level her burst talent. I think if you have C2, her burst becomes even more important for her combos. So if you do end up with C2 Varesa, you do want to also consider crowning her burst. I do want to talk a little bit about comparisons versus Clorinde. Basically, Varesa is looking stronger than Clorinde if her sheet numbers turn out to be accurate real numbers, which they should be. But Clorinde is also getting a pretty decent buff, probably from Yansan. So if there was any doubt that Clorinde is a top 5 DPS before, she's definitely a top 5 DPS considering Yansan. I know people accuse me of glazing Clorinde. I actually don't think I'm glazing her. I think that I'm just the only one who's correct and everyone really underrates her. One of the reasons is that Chevreuse is just a bat crazy character and just totally an unfair unit. Just to exemplify what I mean, I'm doing my Spiral Abyss testing against the Rune enemies and the Perpetual Mechanical Array on side 1, chamber 2 of the Abyss. And it's really bad for Moika, so it's not really a fair comparison because the multi-wave means that Moika wastes so much nuking potential. But because Clorinde does have such good multi-wave, Clorinde with Moika cleared in just a minute, which is faster than the Novelette clear, and Clorinde with Tome Official Chevreuse cleared a minute 4, so basically the same as the Novelette clear. Obviously, Novelette's strength is AoE, and this is a single target check, so it makes sense that it wouldn't be like bat crazy. But the idea that Clorinde is actually a top tier DPS is very unpopular for whatever reason. As I continue to test more and more characters in this chamber, I'll make this sheet in my next meta guide. But all this to say, Varesa is looking a decent bit better than Clorinde, at least on paper. So I expect Varesa to be extremely strong. Like, I already consider Clorinde to be very, very excellent, and Varesa is looking like a pretty sizable upgrade as long as it's easy enough to execute the combos that she needs to have that damage. So I'm expecting Varesa to be really, really freaking strong. Like, really strong. We'll talk more about the comparison once I've actually been able to play her. So when push comes to shove, I think there's going to be 4 main ways of playing Varesa. The Chevreuse one is cheating the best with Constellation 0 5 stars. However, keep in mind it does require C6 Chevreuse to actually be the best. So if you don't already have C6 Chevreuse, well, there's no way to get her now. So it's either you have it or bust. So if you don't have it, then you've got to go the Shenyun route. Regardless of whether you choose Chevreuse, Shenyun, or other buffers or aggravate, no matter what, you're still going to want to use Yansan. Yansan just has great synergy with Varesa, giving her exactly what she needs, being attack, damage bonus, and Varesa can easily utilize Yansan's requirement of movement. You don't need C6 Yansan for Varesa to shine, but of course the more copies you get helps, and that's where it's nice that she's running with Shenyun. I've seen some people say that it sucks that she's running alongside Shenyun, but the fact that you can get additional Yansan copies while wishing for Shenyun constellations or just your C0 Shenyun is actually really good. For Shenyun to be best in slot, you will want to have Farina, bonus points for C1 or C2 Farina. I'm expecting for like Dolphin players or dedicated players. I prefer dedicated to Dolphin, but dedicated mains of Varesa, a lot of them will end up going for C2 Shenyun and C2 Farina and Varesa with her weapon. And then you can look, and then by then you're going to have C6 Yansan, and that's going to be, you're going to see some pretty crazy numbers. Obviously take those with a grain of salt, because these are really, really powerful early constellations that Shenyun and Farina have, and Varesa is really going to look incredible. So just be aware that when you see Varesa showcases, they're going to have a C6 Chevreuse, they're going to have possibly C2 Shenyun or C2 Farina, and that's going to really inflate how much numbers that Varesa can do, because she can really abuse these buffers. And if you have Chevreuse but not with Moika and you have to use Pyro Traveler or Shangling, it's not going to be as good. And similarly, if you don't have Yansan, you have to use Ron or Sara. That's also not going to be as good, but that shouldn't be as much of an issue because you should get lots of Yansan constellations from the Varesa banner. You can use other buffers, and this is stuff that I will try. This is the stuff that's like, I don't know. Will it be any good? What if you just swap out, you know, Xiaolonen for Shenyun and you're using this instead? And we're, you know, Xiaolonen can still do a lot of stuff. So will Xiaolonen be competitive with C0 Shenyun? I don't know. We'll find out. I'll have to try it and see. What if you just double Bennett, right? What if you use Bennett and Yansan? How much worse will that be? What if you can't really use Bennett here because you need off-field pyro application of some kind, but that'll be interesting. You know, what if you're using Lanyan? Lanyan can provide Thrilling Tales and VV and gives you a shield. Maybe you don't need a shield, so maybe it's what about Sucrose? I mean, you're getting EM buffs, so that doesn't matter. So maybe Kazuha. How good is Aggravate? It's looking kind of bad. I already think Clorinde Aggravate is way overrated. It's by far not the best way to play Clorinde. And for Varesa, it should be even worse because she doesn't have that many hits, electro hits that are buffed. She does fewer stronger hits than lots of little hits. So I really don't recommend playing Aggravate with her. But I think substituting other buffers should still be quite good. So I'm interested to see. I'm really excited for the character. I think that they have a great design. I think that their animations are fire. Lots of personality on the character and lots of personality on the character. And we'll be testing her on all of these best teams. And I'll be comparing her testing on this sheet as well as throughout the whole Abyss, but on this sheet specifically. We'll test the different Yansan constellation levels. So subscribe if you think that's valuable. And if you don't, just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.